In episode 3, the news about the UBA hack has UBA's rivals dancing on their grave. They're reveling in this, but it's not all bad news for Corey. Ratings are up, and after floating that Paul Marks was interested in buying UBA's stock actually went up. So the value of the company goes up. But also, Corey's fixer went through every single leaked email, text, everything. And he found something salacious that his internal rival, Sybil, had to say about their new anchor, Christina Hunter. Corey knows it's only a matter of time before Sybil goes to the board and tries to get rid of him, so he decides to leak these emails, and they're downright racist. When news gets out about the racist emails, it sends shockwaves through UBA. The staff, and especially Christina, they're pretty floored to read them. You've got some people, though, that don't think it's that big of a deal. One of the people on the board of directors said that Chris is popular and she's on cereal boxes, and Sybil's reply to that was, well, so was Aunt Jemima, and you don't see people buying her anymore. And that was the whole firestorm. Because of the racial undertones, it's making for an uncomfortable environment for Chris. While Corey's the guy who started the fire, he also needs to kind of put it out. He meets with Chris and tries to get her not to sue the company, to keep it internally, offering her virtually hush money, a bonus here, a reworked contract, and that actually doesn't make Chris feel any better about the situation. She feels even more gross about the situation than she already did, which she didn't know was possible. While Corey was meeting with Chris, Sybil was meeting with Alex because she felt like she needed an ally. She needed somebody to go to bat for her who actually knew her. She thought that Alex could be that person because Alex was probably the most powerful person at UBA, even though Sybil is in charge of the board. But after how they recently handled Alex going back to the morning show, she's not keen to help Sybil at all. And she has no problem telling Sybil as much. Sybil tries to rope Alex in with sisterhood and unity and sticking up for one another, but Alex just ain't having it. At the moment, she could not care less about helping Sybil Reynolds. This meeting, though, does give Alex a pretty interesting idea. The next day, Chip and her meet with Stella and Corey and pitch the idea that Alex should interview Sybil on UBA+. Put it on Alex Unfiltered and have Sybil stand up for herself. Everybody likes looking at a car crash, and this would probably be one. Corey, though, doesn't want that to happen at all. He wants Sybil out. He doesn't want Sybil becoming humanized to the public. Right now, she's this evil woman in an ivory tower who's spitting racist emails, and that's the way Corey wants to keep it. His fear is that if Sybil goes on UBA Plus and looks sympathetic, then all of a sudden, Sybil stays in the chair. So when this idea gets brought to him, he pushes it down right away. But he pushes a little too hard. It's obvious to everybody in the room that he's shutting this idea down when it's a pretty good idea. And because of it, there's got to be some other reason. After this meeting, Stella gets a phone call from Mia. Mia is dealing with something a couple floors down. The staff is about to revolt. With this UBA leak, it's provided employees information that they probably shouldn't have, like performance reviews and salaries. And they've been able to connect some dots and figure out that they are wildly underpaid. One of the producers who is underpaid and is fed up, and is kind of leading this revolt, is Layla. Mia really trusts Layla. They've worked together for a long time, and Mia can tell that Layla is about to just blow. So she calls her in her office and says, "Hey, what's the deal?" And Layla goes off. She complains to Mia that an email about a rich and famous person finally brought to light the inequality that's baked into UBA. And that's ridiculous, because it's been like this for a while. People underpaid, and more specifically, people of color underpaid. Mia asks Layla, "How pissed are you guys?" And Layla just says, "You might not have a staff tomorrow." So Mia called up Stella to tell her, "We need an all-hands-on-deck meeting. We need to put out this fire ASAP." A little while later, Mia and Stella stand up in front of the staff of the morning show, and they say, "All right, tell us how you feel right now. What can we do to fix it? You're free to say anything without repercussions." And Layla laughs at that and says, "Yeah, okay, you're not going to fire us, but what you could do is things like take away segments from us or pass us over for promotions that we deserve to the point where we just get fed up and we quit." Yeah, I'm okay. The meeting goes nowhere. Chris could see where this meeting was headed, so she started to walk out, and Mia went after her. And Chris said, what was the point of that? Mia said to her, I thought it would help if everybody talked it out. And Chris shot back, oh, you mean before you put Sybil on Alex Unfiltered? She then walks off. After this failed meeting, Stella and Mia meet, and the staff aren't the only ones who are fed up with the situation. Mia vents to Stella about being put in this situation because Stella is up in the penthouse of the building, talking to Corey, talking to Sybil. She doesn't have to look at these staffers who were overworked and underpaid. She resents being put in this situation. She compares UBA to a plantation with just dental insurance. And she hates the fact that she knows it, and yet she's still there. Stella knows that words are not going to make Mia feel better, so she decides to take her out and get drunk that night. And the plan is to invite Chris as well, but Chris isn't answering her cell phone at the moment. Chris is at home with her husband and her child, cute little baby girl, and she just doesn't feel like dealing with any calls or questions or texts or emails about work at the moment. But just because she's home doesn't mean she's in the clear, because there's a knock at the door, and it's work. More specifically, it's Alex Levy. Alex wanted to touch base with Chris, talk things out, try to make her feel better. And during their conversation, Chris decided I should be the one to interview Sybil. When she has this idea, she hops in an Uber, she heads downtown, meets up with a drunk Mia and a drunk Stella, and tells them, I'm going to be the one to interview Sybil, not Alex. Mia and Stella are okay with the idea, but when they bring it to Corey the next day, he shoots it down. The morning show is supposed to be a fun place, not Frost Nixon. Corey tells Stella that he appreciates the Hail Mary attempt, though, and Stella says, I appreciate Hail Marys too, like where a network CEO leaks an embarrassing email to knock out his board chair and kind of casually weaponizes 400 years of racism. I love that. And Stella says this having no idea that Corey 12 hours ago was having dinner with a board member named Leonard, pitching him on getting Sybil out of UBA, having a vote of no confidence, and Corey wants Leonard to be the head of the board. Up until this point, Corey had thought he'd been a little sneaky with this, but apparently not, because Stella was on to him. Corey kind of has no choice but to agree to Chris interviewing Sybil. And of course, Sybil does not want that at all. She was comfortable with Alex, but having to look the person she was talking about in the face on live TV, it's a completely different ballgame that she didn't really sign up for. The big issue, though, is the statement that UBA put out came off really, really tone deaf. This could save the optics. If Sybil is able to conduct herself in a professional manner, it would go a long way to brushing this under the rug. It's worth mentioning, by the way, Sybil does feel really bad about this situation. She doesn't even remember writing it. She's angry at herself, but she's also angry at the situation. Ultimately, she does agree to go on the morning show with Chris. The next day, Sybil sits down with Chris Hunter for a very uncomfortable interview where Sybil bombs. Chris, on the other hand, shines, looking like a knight for those that are underpaid and overworked. She conducts herself both professionally, but also somebody that was pulling no punches on the boss. At times, the interview is just downright uncomfortable, but at the end of it, Sybil knows that her career is probably over, which is tough because Sybil's grandfather started UBA. She is literally the legacy in legacy media. When the interview finally wraps up, Mia turns to Layla and says, go in and congratulate Chris on doing a phenomenal job. And Layla can't figure out why she's getting charged with doing that. And Mia says, because that's what anchor producers do. This is long overdue. You're getting promoted. Mia wasn't about to sit back and wait for somebody else to do it. She's doing what the bosses should have done a long time ago. That night, the UBA directors meet, and they vote Sybil Reynolds out. Leonard will indeed take over as chairman of the board. When this goes down, Corey is on cloud 9. With Sybil removed from the equation, he feels like this is a clear path between UBA being bought and Paul Marks. He finds out that Paul actually is in the city, and he goes to meet with him, but Paul's muscle, let's call her, a woman named Amanda who serves as an assistant, shuts down the meeting right away, telling Corey that he's not on the list to enter the building that Paul's in. But Paul sees him from the outside. He comes on out, and he tells him, Corey, I'm no longer interested in buying UBA. I've moved on. I wanted to buy a legacy media company. There's no legacy in UBA now. Legacy media companies have brand loyalty, and they're safe. UBA is no longer safe. UBA is a dumpster fire right now. I'm sorry, Corey. Thanks for coming by. And he leaves Corey sitting on the sidewalk, pondering what the hell he's going to do next. Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel and subscribing to my Patreon. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. If you left a comment, I don't get back to you. I usually don't check the comments unless they're like a super comment. Also, if you don't see the next video up on the end screen, not to worry, it'll be up in a day or two.